see that.
Alright, you ready? Prime up, go. Oh, hello, Eddie.
That was amazing.
Oh, hello. Sorry, just working my secondary job here, when I'm not out in Cyrodiil ganking and killing as I am wont to do. So, you've come here to learn about bombing, have you? Well, let me get into something more comfortable, and I'll tell you all about what I do to be a Stanblade bomber. Hey everybody, welcome to the middle of nowhere. For today's video, I'm going to be going over my Stamina Nightblade build. I'm going to try and be as quick as possible and as thorough as possible as well. I will be leaving chapter marks in the video, so you'll be able to skip back and forth and watch at your leisure, because I can't imagine this is going to be a long video, even though I'm trying to go quick. Starting with race, I will give you my personal preference. It is completely up to you. I, myself, am a Wood Elf, and I would put this at first place, if not tied for second. So Wood Elf's bonuses are 5% increased movement speed, which is fantastic since you're on a timer with getting the bomb off. You get 2,000 extra stamina, you get 950 extra penetration, which is also great, and it makes it the ideal choice for Stamina Nightblade. Additionally, you get reduced fall damage and resists to disease and poison. Tied with it, or in second place, I would go with the Dark Elf, which gives you extra weapon and spell damage, which is going to boost up that proximity detonation. You get extra magicka and stamina, and you get both fire resist and immunity to burning, which is fantastic. So that's going to help you just overall with your damage. Tied for probably third and fourth, or just third, whatever, would be 𝐒𝐭𝐤. You get extra crit damage, which is always nice. You get some recoveries, some extra stats, and then you also have a smaller detect radius, which makes it fantastic for being able to hide in keeps and outposts, so you don't get caught when you're prepping to set up your bomb. Finally, I would probably consider maybe Orc. It's the final race I would consider. You do get extra stamina, and you do get extra weapon damage, which will aid your overall bomb damage. Moving on from the races, here's the gear that I am using for my build. I'm going with 7-piece medium, however I will get into a moment that you might consider going with 5-2 or 6-1 or even 5-1-1 if you want to max out your Undaunted bonuses. In order to get the maximum bonuses out of medium armor, which is max damage and stamina recovery and all that other good stuff, I went with full 7 medium. So I'm going with 2-piece Balorgs, 5-piece Plague Break, and 5-piece Vicious Death. And then on our back bar we have a VAT Perfected Greatsword. You can go with really any two-hander VAT, it doesn't really matter. The Perfected just gives you extra stamina, so you don't even need that, just normal will be fine. We don't care so much about the proc damage from the VAT sword. What I am using it for mainly is to get those damage stack increases for every stamina ability used. Essentially, when you do the bomb, you tether, proxy det, and then your whirling blades for your execute. Every time you whirling blade, you are getting additional bonus damage up to 10 stacks. And so that really will help get that execute damage going. For the dual wield weapons, I am using a Nirnhoned mace and a Nirnhoned sword. The bonuses to the mace is extra penetration. The bonus from the sword and dual wield is extra damage overall. The penetration, again, this is a punch through build. Think of it that you are trying to punch through all that armor in order to get the bomb to go off and set the chain reaction for Plague Break and Vicious Death. So really here though, you could opt to go 2 swords, 1 sharpened, or you could go 2 maces, both Nirnhoned. The effective damage is going to be roughly the same. The only reason I wouldn't go 2 Nirnhoned swords is because you still, again, have to penetrate players' armor. And even with the Balorg's bonus, it isn't always enough. The current tank meta means you have to be able to punch through armor for your damage to succeed. Now going back to the armor types that I spoke of before, again, I'm using 7 pieces of medium to get the most out of the medium armor passives, but you can totally go 5 or 6 medium or 1 or 2 light. Using a light will net you more crit chance and more penetration, and also give you 2% more stats from the Undaunted Metal passive. If you do use light pieces, make sure they're your belt and gloves so that you have more armor resist from the larger body slots. You don't really want one heavy piece unless you absolutely feel you need to get the max bonus from the Undaunted Metal passive. Not sure what I'm talking about? Go here and then go to Undaunted, and it is right here. Undaunted Metal increases your max health, stamina, and magicka by 2% when you're at rank 2 per armor type worn, so heavy, medium, light. So right now, because I'm in all medium, I'm only getting 2% max stats. If I were to put one light in there, a sash perhaps, I would then have 4%. Now that extra 2% might make a bit of a difference. I'm not 100% sure, but again, having more magicka will help you cloak a bit more. Having more stamina will mean that you're going to be able to have a bit more damage. Also, the more increased magicka will also passively increase proxy debt as well. Oh, and as for stats, I dumped everything into stamina. So no health, no magicka here. When it comes to going to those dual wield items, again, what I'm talking about, if we go to dual wield here and we go to our passive, twin blade and blunt, so that you can see here, your sword will give you 142 weapon and spell damage, while your mace will give you 1650 penetration. So if you're, and this 142 does go towards the extra like 20% from rally. I believe it applies to that. So it's not a post add-on. It's pre the major berserk or whatever. So that's important to know as well. Again, though, the penetration is good to have, but if you are rocking a 500 ultimate dump, you will, with this build, have roughly 29k penetration when all is said and done. Going on to our traits. Everything is divines. You want to make sure everything is divines, period. You need to make sure that your Mundus is pumped up as much as possible. As far as enchantments go, I went with 4 tri-stats, obviously on the 3 big pieces, and then I think for my shoulders, the rest are stamina. You can choose to go all 7 tri-stats if you want. More magicka means, you know, bigger proxy debt, more cloaking ability. Obviously, more stamina means most of your abilities are going to get pumped up in damage, especially whirling blades. And of course, health will mean you'll just last that much longer. As far as weapon traits go, I have an increased weapon damage on my mace, and then a shock damage on my sword, on my offhand. The reason I went with shock damage is because it does inflict concussion, which means the person who's initially hit will then take 5% more damage, so that will help kind of, in a way, get them better. On the VAT sword, I just went with the basic enchant that was already on there, physical damage and stam recovery. You don't really attack with this weapon, so it doesn't matter at all what you're doing here. As far as jewelry goes, everything is infused with weapon damage. If you want to have this be more of an open field bomb build, then I highly recommend doing 1 to 2 of your jewelry as swift trait, so that way you can move faster and get to your targets quicker, especially because ball groups and the like tend to move a lot. And I will say, my strong point is not mobility bombing. I'm really just not that good at it. There's a few occasions where I've done okay, but for the most part, I like to be a vulture and wait for them to be repping the door, defenses down, etc. But if you want to do that, this build can do some pretty good mobility bombing. I have been successful at times, but you'll want Swift in order to be able to stay caught up with them, because a lot of times people are running Path of Darkness or some kind of rapid maneuver in order to keep the whole group going at speed. Now, I just want to go over real quick some gear alternatives. You don't have to do Vicious Death and Plague Break. You could actually just choose one or the other. The reason I really like both of them is they both give offensive penetration, they both have magic and weapon damage ticks on them, and then Vicious Death gives you some max magicka as well as crit chance, which is really nice. And you can see here, without even being buffed, my Vicious Death proc is at 21,396 damage, while my Plague Break will explode for, it looks like, not as much, but 4,586 damage, and then that is increased an additional 50%, which is a lot per enemy hit. So if 2 enemies are hit, that gets increased to 7k. That's pretty sweet, or near 7k anyway. So you add both of those together, and you're gonna be raining some hell down. And honestly, I chose these 2 gear sets just because I really like the cloud effect from the explosions on each of them. You get green and flame, green disease, and orangey red flames. It's kind of fun. But you could also go something with, I want to say it's called Dagon's Fury. I don't know if I have any pieces, but what that does is, I'll put a picture in the video as I'm going through this. What it does is it gives you weapon damage to all of your AoE abilities. Now keep that in mind, keyword abilities. So Proxy Det, Tether, Whirling Blades, it is not going to amp up your procs at all because it's active abilities. Unless it says AoE damage, and it might, but I'm pretty certain it's the abilities, so this might all be for naught. But unless it says just straight up AoE damage, the procs are not going to be affected. So just keep that in mind as well. So that's it for our enchantments and traits and all that good stuff. Speaking of, real quick, just want to go to this. Our Mundus is the lover. So with all divines, we get 4,489 penetration. That's really awesome. If you feel your penetration is high enough, or you feel Belorgs will do enough for you in terms of penetration, you can totally go for the warrior Mundus here if that's what you choose. I'm sticking with the lover mostly because I change gear sets back and forth between my gank build and my bomb build, and so it works for both ways. Alright, let's go to our skills. Your bars are meant to try and maximize the damage gained either from passives or actively using an ability, and so these are my recommendations. On the front bar, you want Ambush. You need at least one assassin ability on your bar in order to get the, where are you at here? Hemorrhage. So you need an ability slotted. This increases your crit damage by 10%, which is amazing. It also increases your crit rating by giving you minor savagery if you, let's see here, by dealing crit damage. So that's awesome too. So that means you'll have more crit damage chances. The rest of the passives, it goes without saying, get all your class passives, period. Don't pick and choose. Master Assassin is awesome because you are going to be flanking on this build, so you get extra penetration there, practically 3,000. And it increases the duration of your stun abilities from Sneak. So when you tether, if they are low on stamina, or even if they're not, they're just unwary and they want to let it go naturally, that stun will last actually longer. So that's really cool too. So our first ability is Ambush, and the order is not important. This is just how I operate. So you do as your fingers allow, if you will. Our next ability is Surprise Attack. Really, honestly, I've just never changed it out. I wouldn't include this. Instead, I would actually include a Fighter's Guild ability to further increase our weapon damage. And I would probably go with Silver Shards. So just keep in mind that every single, where's it at? Slayer. So increases your weapon and spell damage by 3% for each fighter's ability slotted. Our current bonus is now 6%. Before it would have just been 3% because we had Camo Hunter. So that over Surprise Attack I would include. However, if you are going to keep this build as kind of a brawler or gank build as well, Surprise Attack will come in more handy because it stuns and sets people off balance. So just keep that in mind as well. If you're only going to be bombing, put in Silver Shards or any of these other abilities in addition. Our AoE Execute is Whirling Blades. Cloak or Shadowy Disguise is on the front bar so that you can obviously stay hidden, and it will give you some major major resolve, excuse me. So you'll get physical and spell resistance as well from the passive there. And then finally we have Camo Hunter. This is amazing ability. It does take up a slot because it's mostly passive. It's going to give you Major Savagery, which is increased crit rating, and it also will give you Minor Berserk for 5 seconds after you deal crit damage from an enemy's flank, so increasing your overall damage by 5%. Guess what? We're flanking because we're bombing from behind. And then finally for our ultimate, we have Soul Tether. This is a AoE burst. It is direct damage on the initial hit. It is an AoE stun as well, which is awesome. And then afterwards, you're going to be tethered to people, sucking their health some more as a dot, and healing yourself as well. Alternatively, you could do, and I definitely say this as an alternative, you could do a Dawnbreaker of Smiting because that does stun people. If you're not worried, and I haven't tested this, if you're not worried about necessarily an AoE stun, you could also do Flawless Dawnbreaker to give you 300 extra weapon and spell damage. So you cast that right before the Proxy Det goes off. Guess what? Your Proxy Det just got amped up by 300 spell damage. Again, up to you. I would stick with Tether because it is a 360-degree circle AoE, so you're going to get some people behind you as well. Going to our back bar, we have Channeled Acceleration, you can choose to use Race Against Time instead, which is instant cast. The reason I like Channeled Acceleration is because the major expedition lasts for 12 seconds as opposed to 4 seconds. This gives me plenty of time to be able to get to my targets, because I'm oftentimes running from a distance or having to hop down off stairs or whatever, and 4 seconds isn't just going to cut it. Channel Acceleration, the speed at least is longer than the proxy det duration, because that's the kind of marquee you're working with here, right? The proxy det is what is your own race against time, if you will. You have to get to your targets before that goes off. And so I feel Channel Acceleration, while it does have a cast time, and while it doesn't have the extra bonuses of granting you immunity to snares and immobilization, is a better ability for this bombing scenario. If you're open field bombing, I would probably go with Race Against Time. Additionally, because you don't want to constantly be casting Race Against Time because of limited magicka pool, I feel, again, Channel Acceleration is the better choice. And it does give you Major Force, increasing your crit damage by 10%, which is awesome. Our second ability is Leeching Strikes, and we'll come back to this in a second. Third, we have Proxy Detonation. It's not very strong, but it does scale in damage, and I've actually gotten quite a lot of killing blows just off the proxy det because the tether ends up being so strong. And then all the passives that we've talked about so far, amp up this proxy det's damage even further. Then we have Rally, self-explanatory, gives you Major Brutality, so you get that extra weapon damage. And then every time, because we're using the VAT weapon, every time we use a stamina ability, that's going to give us an additional stack of weapon damage and spell damage. Then finally we have Vigor, and this is definitely a free slot. Vigor is if you survive the bomb, but there's a lot of enemies around, you need to be able to heal. And I'll tell you what the free slot is that I would change out of this ability in a second. And then finally we have Ice Comet. Honestly, whatever ulti you want, you could use Easily Undo if you wanted to get away after you kill enough people or whatever. But yeah, I just have Ice Comet. I just left it, so that's me being lazy. You can use whatever ultimate you want. Now, coming back to Vigor, the ability that I would actually normally slot in there is Shadow Image. This way you can place it on a stair or in a tower or whatever, hop down, go bomb, and then zerp right back up. And it's kind of a nice safety net. You could keep Vigor and slot it over Leeching Strikes if you want instead. But that's up to you. So let's say we are going to use Shadow Image, and we want another ability. Well, that other ability would be Simmering Frenzy or Sated Fury, and I would actually put this over my Leeching Strikes. Just because really the survivability of Bomb Run isn't always the best, so being able to get some stamina and health back every time you do an attack might not be that helpful. However, using Sated or Simmering Fury to amp up your weapon and spell damage even further is a great boon. I have not had the best luck using this ability because half the time I'm going over AoEs, and so especially with Simmering Frenzy, any kind of slight damage you take while trying to get to your targets could end up just straight up killing you. The bonus of Sated Fury is while it gives you less weapon and spell damage overall, once you untoggle it, you'll heal yourself for the majority of the damage that you inflicted upon yourself. So consider this ability as something to help ramp your damage up. I would again use it in a case-by-case scenario, whether or not you know you're not going to be hopping down and inflicting yourself damage there. 2, you're not going to be running through AoEs. And 3, you know you can turn it off and get away and heal yourself all back up. So that's really it for the skills. Again, that front bar is here to help jack your damage up. You could easily put Cloak on the back bar if you wanted and do the swap. I don't really like that. Sometimes the game is finicky, as we all know, and so swapping bars isn't always an option. So being able to just have this more or less be a buff bar, and then you go and run, cloak, tether, blow up, and then swap back if you're able to Shadow Image away. Otherwise, you could potentially put Cloak on your back bar, put another Fighter's Guild ability on here to amp your damage up even more, and go from there. So that's up to you. Right now that we've gone over the skills, Munduses, and all that other good stuff, let's go into the CP tree. Now this is arguably the most subjective thing, mostly because of how much CP a person has. I've got, I want to say, close to 2,000, so I'm going to be able to have more passives, and so I'm just going to go over the things that I do have. So we're going to start with the most useless tree, which is the green tree, and we're going to go with the active abilities. I have Steed's Blessing, which increases our out-of-combat movement speed by 20%. This is awesome to help you get to your target. I have Sustaining Shadows, reducing sneak by 1%. I have Rationer, which adds 10 minutes to the duration of any food or drink that increases your character stats per stage. So right now it's 30 minutes. That's its max. And then finally, Gifted Rider, increasing my mounted speed by 10%. The reason I want that is because if Sejanus is on fire and I want to get to that Bombopportunity TM quick enough, I need to be able to ride there as fast as I can. You could alternatively get Liquid Efficiency in there, which will help you save on potions, as it gives you a 10% chance to not consume it. Other than that, the key passives I would include from this tree are Fleet Phantom, which reduces movement speed penalty of Sneak by 5% per stage. However, I have been told that Vampirism already just completely removes the penalty, so you might not need that at all. And then Out of Sight, which reduces the radius you can be detected while sneaking by 1 meter per stage, so 3 meters total. This is super important. Breakfall, absolutely necessary in my opinion, reduces fall damage by 35%. And I think that is it for passives in the green tree that are worth a damn. Everything else is kind of crafting related or outlaw related, so we're good there. So those are the things that I would suggest. Alright, let's go to the red tree. So our actives here are Rejuvenation, giving us recovery, 9 year health, magic, and stamina recovery per stage. We have Bastion, which helps us punch through damage shields by 15%. We have Celerity, increasing our movement speed by 10%. Again, movement speed is king here. And Boundless Vitality, which is more health, which means if you are using Simmering Frenzy or Sated Fury, you'll have more health to drain away without killing yourself. Additionally, you could always do Siphoning Spells for more Magicka every time you kill something, or Bloody Renewal, or a whole bunch of other stuff. You could also do Pain's Refuge, reducing your damage taken, or Relentlessness, which causes you to gain major protection, which is nice, because odds are as soon as you get the bomb off, anyone left alive will probably stun you, so that would be good to have. Or maybe even Sustained by Suffering. Passives, definitely do Mystic Tenacity. Do Hasty, so that you get another 4% movement speed. You could also do Refreshing Stride to give you health and magic recovery while you sprint and run away. And Slippery is a very good alternative. So it's an auto break free. So you get stunned after you do a bomb, auto break free, run away. You could also do Fortified if you wanted and max your armor out. Other than that, passives reduce the cost to break free, so that's Defiance. Tumbling, which reduces dodge rolling. Sprinter, reducing sprint. You're kind of getting the gist here. Extra health. Increased stealth detection, so if there's a counter bomber or anti-bomber, that will come in handy. And I think that's really it for this line as well. Okay, now let's go to the blue tree. We'll just start with Mastery Curation for our passive. Do Blessed, healing done by 2%. And that will help aid the Soul Tether. But our actives are going to be Master at Arms, which is 10% to direct damage abilities. So keep in mind, Whirling Blades, Proxy Det, Soul Tether, all direct damage. The Explosion from Plague Break, the Explosion from Vicious Death, considered direct damage. I'm not sure if procs are buffed by Master at Arms, but this would be the one to do it. Fighting Finesse, increased crit damage and healing done by 10%. So your initial Soul Tether will hit like a freaking truck. Backstabber, increased crit damage by 15% to enemies you're flanking. So obviously we're bombing, we're flanking quite a bit. And you have a 180-degree arc, so keep that in mind. From side to back to the side again, that's your flank. And then finally, Biting Aura, increase area of effect attacks by 10%. Keep in mind, in my last video and the samples that I used today, I constantly forget to slot Biting Aura, because again, I swap for my gank build, which has Deadly Aim in it, which is single target attacks. So I'm losing 10% damage on all my bombs because I never slotted in there. So that shows you how effective this build is without even that extra 10% damage. If you are going to be swapping back and forth, I can honestly suggest as an alternative to Biting Aura. Let's say you do a lot of single target stuff when you're ganking, but for bombing obviously you're doing AoE. Consider Wrathful Strikes. You'll get 65 weapon and spell damage to your damaging abilities, which is going to be everything that's active abilities. So, whatever, light attack, heavy attack, proxy debt, soul tether, whirling blades, etc. So it won't buff up your procs, but it will buff up your active abilities. Instead of that, if you want just overall weapon damage, you could do this. Untamed aggression, that's 150, so it's a little bit less, yes, but it will at least then also affect your proc damage as well. And especially if you feel like you're having a struggle getting to that 6500 damage mark, then I would definitely recommend this. As far as passives go, get your Eldritch Insight, get your Precision for crit chance, 320, 520 Magicka. What else we got? There's not a lot of passives in this line. Go here, get your Healing Taken, so another 2%. So your Hardy, reduced damage taken from martial attacks, yes, 2%. It's not a lot, but it's every little bit helps, right? So do your main actives that you know you're going to slot, then get to your passives immediately. Preparation, reduced damage taken from non-player attacks. You could probably get rid of this, because that's mainly guards, although guards can be nasty, so keep that in mind. Elemental Aegis, reduce damage you take from magical attacks. So okay, so these three I would definitely say are musts. This is a maybe. Then we go over here. I like all of these. Grants offensive penetration, 700, yes. Battle Mastery, increase your chance to apply a martial status effect 30% per stage, so that's poison, disease, bleed, etc. Grants 100 weapon and spell damage to martial attacks, so your whirling blades will be affected by that. So physical, poison, disease, and bleed damage. Then we move over here. 30%, so a 60% chance to increase a magical status effect. Then War Mage, 100 extra weapon and spell damage to magical attacks. Guess what gets amped there? Soul Tether and Proxy Debt. So I like all of these passives, period. So if you have the points to spare, dump them in there. That's it for our CP tree. Wow, okay, that went a lot quicker than I thought. So that's a good thing. Alright, now we come to our food. And I am using ℤ𝐤𝐴𝐻 Takeaway Broth. Increase max health, health recovery, max stamina, and stamina recovery by a lot. It's gold food, it's expensive. Alternatively, you could use the drink Dubious Camoran if you wanted, which is the same thing, but just slightly less. And then alternatively to all of that, you could use Bewitched Sugar Skulls. So max health by 4620, max stamina, and Magicka by 4250, and then health recovery. Now, the reason I would suggest this is because it gives you max stats for your two key resource pools, which means more cloak, increased proxy debt damage, increased whirling blade damage, increased basically damage all together. However, you won't have as much stamina recovery, and so that's kind of the of that. So stamina recovery is kind of key to be able to get away. But if you're bombing and you know you're just going to die anyway and you're just in it for the kills, then yeah, absolutely do the Sugar Skulls. I think that would be a good food. Or just do Fortifying Meal, and then because that's pretty cheap, and that will give you tri-stats as well. So ideal potions for this are going to be Tri-Stat, Essence of Health. So it's just gain health, stamina, and Magicka immediately, and then your recovery is increased. Additionally, some kind of immovable pot. I use Essence of Immovability, which gives me stealth detection, movability to disabling effects and knockback, and gives me a bunch of Magicka immediately. Why do I love this one the most, aside from being able to see counter bombers through stealth detection, is I'm casting Channel Acceleration, I'm casting Proxy Debt, I'm low on magic, I need to be able to cloak continuously to be able to get to my targets. This influx of Magicka is going to allow me to do that. Secondly, if someone is wary and are using the flare that stuns you on the door or wherever, having a movable immunity means you can't be stunned. So if they're using, I want to say, is it Blinding Flare? Yeah. Blinding Flare won't affect you at all. So while you're immovable, and also snares won't. So caltrops, I think you'll be hit maybe by the AoE damage, but you won't necessarily be affected by the snare. So that's a good thing as well. So those are my two top potions to use on this build. Let's go over strategy. These guys are our enemies. This is a door. So I'm over here sneaking awesomely. I'm hiding. No one's seen me. Yay. I'm going to Channel Acceleration. Proxy Debt. I'm going to Cloak. Cloak. I'm going to use the potion to get more Magicka. Cloak some more. And right before the Proxy Debt, boom. Soul Tether first, Proxy Det next, Whirling Blades. Now, you want to give yourself, let's say, I think this is probably enough room between your target. That way you're, for certain, flanking them. You don't want to be like humping them like this, because you might end up being even with someone, and then therefore you lose your flank bonus. However, if you're a little bit behind them, the abilities, keep in mind, 8 meters, 6 meters, you just want to be close enough that you are going to hit them, but not so close that you negate any kind of flanking bonus. So that's really it. Let's go over just to show you kind of the damage. So our base penetration is right here, 13,720. I don't think that's going to go up if I flank. Yeah, no. So that's a really good penetration. That's going to take out most light and medium armor wearers. You can see here I only have 185 ultimate, unfortunately. So if we go, let's go just rally real quick. So with just rally buff, we have 6,120 weapon damage. If I cloak, vampire bonus is going to give me 6,540. So again, you need to be a stage 2 vampire, and you need to make sure that you have Darkstalker and Strike from the Shadows at a minimum. These 2 passives are immensely important. Everything else is stage 3 or higher, or making other people vampires. So these 2 passives right here. So Darkstalker to reduce movement penalty, and then also give you that extra 300 bonus. And guess what? That 300 bonus is calculated into Major Brutality, so you're not going to go straight to 6420. Look at that, 6540. So that 20% is included in there, which is pretty cool. So that was 1370. Let's see what our base would be, or damage, and our, if I use the ulti, and our penetration. So 6540. Okay, let's make sure we got that. And then we'll go here. 6,799. Penetration goes up to 17,975. That was just with 185 crit, or ultimate, excuse me. So we're gonna get a lot more. And that lasts for, I think, is it 8 seconds on Balorix? 12 seconds, even better. So there you go. So I've seen myself get up to 29,000 penetration. So with only 185, we're getting 17,000 and some. That's pretty good. So I would say 185, anywhere from there to 250, you're going to pretty much kill most things, because you're going to be punching through that armor. So, and that's really it. You don't need to do like, oh, this has 10,000 weapon damage, blah, blah, blah. You don't. You absolutely don't. If you watched anything in my last video, you'll see this right here goes up maybe to 7,400 at the most. So you don't need 10k damage. Sure, it will erase people, but it's not necessary, not required. You can kill people with less. And it's really just all about having fun and strategy. And remember, always remember, you only kill one person in a bomb and you die too, still successful bomb. Get up, try again. It's a really fun thing to do. You catch people unawares, or you catch them in battle and you kill a bunch. It's fun. So really, that's all there is. With continuous attack, obviously your damage is going to be even higher. I think I've seen this thing peak out at around 8k, I want to say. So definitely continuous attack, multiple scrolls, which we don't have any right now. So you can see that. This thing can get a lot more weapon damage than is rated. But I think that the whatever it was up to, like 7k or whatever, 6,800 is plenty, because all you need is 6,500 to max out your proc damage. So, or at least hit the base level, not really max it out. It'll keep going up. I don't think I have anything else. I think that's it. So other than taking up more time, I just want to say thanks for your support. Thanks for all the positive feedback on the last video. I had a lot of fun changing things up and doing editing, so I guess I'm just going to leave you with this. Go make a build, make a bomb build, do whatever you want for that build. You don't have to use the gear that I suggested, but I love using it. And just go have fun and bomb those enemies into oblivion. I'm Seth, and I'll see you next time in the middle of nowhere.